So he'll hear us doing these things. So okay. Today is the special day. It is Balaram Purnima. There really is not a better day to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Maybe arguably Nityananda Trayadashi, because that's the merciful incarnation of Balaram. But today is a very, very, very merciful day, in which we can really get the Supreme Lord's mercy on this day. So, without further ado, we're gonna get into all that. But let's chant. Let's do our prayers to the gurus. Remember that Balaram is this manifestation of the original guru. So this is, we're going to talk about that today. And I actually want to tell you a really wonderful thing. It's not that wonderful, but it's kind of wonderful. But I'll tell you after we chant. Maybe give to prayers to the gurus. Maybe we should sit next to Tej and read about it here again.
ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं अग्रजतां सगणरघुनाथं सजीवनं साद्वैतां साधुतां परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदां सगण ललिता श्रीविकासं हे कृष्ण करुण सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपिका गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी नमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्यता देशतारिणे.
So now we'll do the three verses in the Bhagavatam that describe how we should approach the Bhagavatam. We read Bhagavatam every morning, Tej. Every morning we don't have a program. So on program days we skip Bhagavatam because too many classes in the day is too much. So we do this every morning. So these verses. Rishi, were you able to share with Tej?
Yeah. Well,
Narayana Namaskrityam.
Yeah, I was hoping. I thought, I don't know if you got to hear me, but if you want to sit next to Tej, he can read along with you or something like that. Actually, Michael, do you think we can get books for everyone?
In the Mantra Central website, the prayer section.
yeah. I was taking the picture.
एवं सर्वसत्यं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्.
One thing, before you read, just go off of Zoom real quick, and then there's an option for original sound. Turn it on. It's actually everyone who listens to this.
Okay, let me see. In the more section.
Yeah, just let me do it. So before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer their respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So, very good. And the next one is, I'll just share the screen back for you, Piyush. There you go.
Krishna Purna Shravana Kirtana Hidayantasto he apradrani Vidunoti Suri Sata. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable.
Chai. So I apologize to everyone on Zoom who we didn't have the original sound on, so it probably sounded very bad, the prayer section for you guys. But Facebook, you guys will be fine. And then you guys here live, of course, it's fine. So today is Balarama Purnima. There is really not a more merciful day than today. Well, maybe one other day. You could say Nityananda Trayadashi. But Balaram is the expansion of the Supreme Lord. And what's his role? To serve. He wants to, at every level serve the Supreme Lord, and he wants to teach us. He's expanded. He's actually the ultimate creator of all the living entities. Krishna does not create the living entities. Krishna expands into Radha, and then Krishna again expands into Balaram, and then from there Balaram takes care of everything else. And all the other facets of creation and everything is taken care of by Balaram. Because Balaram's ultimate mood is to serve. And actually it said Krishna and Balaram are identical in every way, beauty, everything. Except Prabhupada is saying Krishna is black and Prabhupada is white. Prabhupada is white. And Balaram is white. That's it. Krishna is black and Balaram is white, but they're identical in beauty and wonderfulness in so many ways. But it is seen in the Brahma Vimohan Leela that Krishna is able to even bewilder Balaram. Balaram is the the topmost expansion of Krishna, one of them, and yet even Krishna is able. Only Krishna can bewilder Balaram, but Balaram is completely transcendental. He is actually our every expansion. Even we talk about the Dash avatars. Actually, all those avatars are of Balaram. If it's an avatar, it's an expansion of Balaram. That's how potent Balaram is. All of the Vishnu avatars, the Mahavishnu, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, this is all taken care of by Balaram. So much of us approaching the Supreme Lord, until we get to Krishna and actually get to Krishna, we're actually always dealing with Balaram. That we're always approaching Balaram. So Balaram is not some, he's just like another incarnation. No, like he is like your incarnation. He is he is the source of you as the jiva. All jivas come from Balaram. So this is, now you could say Balaram comes from Krishna. There is a one God that's unanimously known. But how that God expands into many and deputes different roles is explained very extensively in the Vedas. Whereas, in most other religions, it's just a mystery. Like, wow, God is, and God is doing everything. And we don't mind that because God is doing everything. But how he does it is explained. And Balaram is the principal deity from which how he does that. The greatest way he comes into our life, we mentioned yesterday, is through Guru. Balaram will arrange that you meet the Guru that you need to meet. Even the Guru that leads you deeper into Maya, because that's the Gurus we often meet with. Because we have a desire to fulfill our temporary, illusory type of delusions of this world. I want to be, let's say, the big CEO of Google, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, which really has nothing in relation to the Supreme Lord. These desires also will find a guru that will help us go deeper into illusion. There's plenty of gurus who are teaching just like that. So, but ultimately, Balaram, he represents the spiritual guru, which will bring you closer to Krishna. There's no chance of approaching Krishna without first approaching through the right source. Just like if you wanted to meet the president, there's an outlet to meeting the president. You can't just, all right, well, I'm going to call up, who's the president now? Joe Biden, right? He's still the president?
Yeah.
He didn't resign. He's just not running again. So they're just like, oh, I'm going to call up Joe Biden and, see if I can drop by later. No, you have to talk to this person, probably set an appointment many maybe years in the future. And then maybe you have a chance of meeting the president. Maybe, but not even a good chance. So, if we want to just approach God, God is most merciful. There are outlets from which he sends. And he'll send his different avatars, his representatives, different empowered, gurus or servants of him. Like the Christians, they approach through Jesus, the Son of God, even though they don't go right to God, right? So, like this, so Balaram is one of these chief expansions who facilitates that we meet the person we need to meet. And we all need somebody. We all need many, many somebodies. None of us can do it on our own. We can try. But we'll fail over and over again if we do like this. But it's this will be explained in many of Balaram and Krishna's pastimes. There's a lot of esoteric meaning hidden in there that further elaborate on this. Hello, good morning, Asahil. So we're very happy that we get to gather and do devotional practice on this very special day, and may we all get the blessings of Balaram. Interesting, now I'm going to tell you the interesting thing that happened to me. I was like, well, what verse from the Bhagavatam, should we read from? So I went in the 10th canto, and I realized that Prabhupada actually never gave his commentary on any of Balaram's pastimes in the 10th canto, because he had passed from this world when he was translating. And just before he got to any of Balaram's pastimes, he left. So I was like, all right, well, what to do? And then I just had a hunch. I'm like, well, what verse are we on? And actually, the verse that we were on is actually perfect to actually talk about Balaram. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to continue reading on. And this verse is actually quite wonderful in helping to explain Balaram. So, we're going to do text 26. What page is that, Piyush? So Tej can look into it.
155.
155.
Sorry,
Tej.
156.
156. So ready? Avataraya Sankhya Hare Sattva Nidhe Dvijaha Yatha Vidasina Kulya Sarasasyu Sahasrashaha Avataraha Incarnations. He certainly Asankhya innumerable. Hare of Hari, the Lord. Sattva Nidhe of the ocean of goodness. Dvijaha, the Brahmanas. Yatha, as it is. Avidasina, inexhaustible. Kulya, rivulets. Sarasa, of vast lakes. Syu, are. Sahasrasha, thousands of. So I was actually quoting this verse a couple times earlier in this chapter. But the translation is, O Brahmanas.
O Brahmanas.
No, I don't have to necessarily repeat, but thank you, Piyush. I'm just so you know, just a little context of where we are. The sages, they were asking about what the ultimate essence of life should be earlier, right? So it was all about service unto the Supreme Lord. Bhakti was established that this is the topmost path that you can do. If you really want to get all the essence of the scriptures and you really want to do the most important thing in life, it should be bhakti, or loving devotion unto the Supreme Lord. And then it starts explaining the Supreme Lord in all his incarnations and how he's appearing here in this world. So now we just went through all the principal incarnations, starting from the Brahma through the Kumaras and so on. And now we have reached the end of the principal incarnations, at least for this universe, how we can approach the Lord. And now we're here on this verse. And he's saying, O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. So just like there's so many, within a river, there's so many offshoots of a river, like little rivulets going off into creeks and things like this. There are that many incarnations of the Lord which are connected to him as the main source. So, purport, the list of incarnations of the personality of Godhead given herein is not complete. It is only a partial view of all the incarnations. There are many others, such as Sri Hayagriva, Hari, Hamsa, Prishnigarbha, Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikunta, Sarvabhauma, Vishvakshena, Dharmasetu, Sudama, Yogeshwar, Brihadbanu, and others of the bygone ages. Sri Prahlad Maharaj said in his prayer, My Lord, you manifest as many incarnations as there are species of life, namely the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the men, the demigods, etc., just for the maintenance of the faithful and the annihilation of the unfaithful. You advent yourself in this way in accordance with the necessity of the different yugas. In the Kali Yuga, you have incarnated garbed as a devotee. This incarnation of the Lord in the Kali Yuga is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many other places, both in the Bhagavatam and in other scriptures, in which the incarnation of the Lord as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said indirectly that although there are many incarnations of the Lord, such as Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha, Matsya, Kurma, and many others, The Lord himself sometimes incarnates in person. Lord Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not therefore incarnations, but the original source of all other incarnations. This will be clearly explained in the next shloka. So the Lord is the inexhaustible source for innumerable incarnations, which are not always mentioned. But such incarnations are distinguished by specific extraordinary feats, which are impossible to be performed by any living being. That is the general test to identify an incarnation of the Lord, directly and indirectly empowered. So an incarnation should be doing extraordinary things. In India you see so many supposed incarnations. This guy's an incarnation, this guy's an incarnation, oh, he's an incarnation. Like, oh, really? Well, what is he doing? What is so special? It's not like, there has to be something wonderful that an incarnation does. Like even Jesus, from the Christian angle. He did so many wonderful, extraordinary things, so they said, yes, he must be Son of God. He said it, and so they believed him. And we believe him because he did extraordinary things. But otherwise, if they're not doing extraordinary things, there's no chance of being an incarnation. In the West, we kind of get that. We need to see miracles for proof. But unfortunately, in India, there's so many supposed incarnations running around all over the place, and they say, oh yes, he's an incarnation. What? How? What is he doing? And they're like, oh well, he's feeding a bunch of people with his organization and things like that. I'm like, okay, there's so many people doing things like that. That's not an incarnation of the Lord. Anyway, that's not too important, but Prabhupada is emphasizing that. Some incarnations mentioned above are almost plenary portions, means absolute portions, pretty much like non-different from Krishna himself. Like Balarama is a plenary portion, like he's almost non-different. There's very little difference between Krishna and Balaram. For instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Sri Narada is empowered with devotional service. Maharaj Prithu is an empowered incarnation with executive function. The Matsya incarnation is directly a plenary portion. So the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universes constantly, without cessation, as water flows constantly from waterfalls. So the Lord is constantly expanding himself and expanding and expanding. And even his expansions expand themselves. Like Balaram is expanding all of the different... what's to speak of all the incarnations of Vishnu's? His expansion, one of them, and a minor expansion, is the Mahavishnu, who's the creator of all universes, who's expanding all of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya. Remember, we talked about all these different Vishnu forms and expansions. So, one more verse we'll do, and then we'll talk exclusively about Balaram for the rest of the class. Rishayo Manabo Deva Manuputra Mahojasaha Kala Sarve Harereva Samprajapataya Smrita Rishaya, all the sages, Manavaha, all the Manus, Deva, all the demigods, Manuputra, all the descendants of Manu, Mahaojasaha, very powerful, Kala, portion of the plenary portion, Sarve, all collectively, Hare, of the Lord, Eva, certainly, Sa Prajapataya, along with the Prajapatis, Smrita, are known. Translation: all the rishis, manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapati. Remember, plenary, it means like absolute, meaning like almost non-different. There might be some small distinction, but for all practical purposes, it's non-different. Like if you approach Vishnu in comparison, or Narayan in comparison to approaching, Krishna, in many ways it's practically non-different. unless you're very exclusively looking for something that only Krishna has. And that can be very possible. But for most people, in their approaching the Lord, them approaching Nrsimha and their approaching Ram is practically, for all extensive purposes, non-different. But if you have developed a very exclusive mood for the Lord, which is actually recommended in our path, that we do ultimately all try and relate to Krishna, then even that form of the Lord will never be able to fully satisfy you in worship of Him therein like that. So this is actually taught extensively in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is, ISKCON has published very few books after Srila Prabhupada has passed, but that's one of the main books that they've published, called the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I read an abridged version, and I read a few commentaries on it. But it's very nice teachings. Sanatana Goswami lays out, and that he actually received this teaching in a Sforti, his own spiritual vision, and he shared his spiritual vision on how we can all approach the Supreme Lord. So, but this is talking about all of the empowered rishis, manus, demigods, descendants of Manu. They're all portions or plenary portions of the Lord, or portions of portions. Purport: those who are comparatively less powerful are called vibhuti, and those who are comparatively more powerful are called avesha incarnations. Actually, many people, I don't know what Srila Prabhupada himself would consider, but many people in ISKCON, that being said, Prabhupada never said anything like this, so we should be very careful with how matter of fact we speak like this, but have compared Srila Prabhupada to be a Shakti Avesha incarnation, or a very powerful incarnation of the Lord, for actually spreading this all over the world. Now, I don't know, I'm not in the business of being an expert in classifying incarnations. And I know for one, Srila Prabhupada never ever would ever say that he was an incarnation of the Lord, and he only spoke in such a way to say that he is the servant of the Lord. That was Srila Prabhupada's mood. But what Srila Prabhupada did, what classification of incarnation he is, that's, because we're all technically some minute incarnation of the Lord. Every single living entity is an expansion, an incarnated form of the Lord in a small way. But to be empowered is different. These are more deeply connected. Like, for instance, Balarama is like almost the ultimate approach to the Lord. There's only two higher, Krishna and then one higher than him. And so that's Radharani. But, Prishi.
Yeah, I think I've heard more deeply into this, Shakti, Avesh and all those things.
Yes.
So there are 2 to 3 distinction within Avesh as well.
Oh, okay.
So in that, one of is Shakti Avesh. So Shakti Avesh is basically, those are the living entities, those are not into Vishnu Tattvas.
Yes,
so
yes.
Those are basically Jiva Tattva or Guru Tattva, you can say, who are empowered by the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
They are Jiva Tattva, they are not into Vishnu Tattva.
Yes.
So they are Shakti Avesh. So like whoever spreads Krishna consciousness, or whoever is in the form of Acharya, whoever he might be, they are kind of classified into those.
Yeah.
Those are empowered souls, not coming as Vishnu Tattvas, but are empowered, like Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj is also not into Vishnu Tattva.
Yes.
But he was an empowered personality.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the what I was getting at, is that, Prithu Maharaj, who was quite wonderful, he was born of like a yagya after they killed King Vena. He was born from like the leg of like a Brahmin mantra sacrifice, Whereas like then to compare and say, well, yeah, Srila Prabhupada is also just like that. To me, it's dangerous without, getting.
He was empowered.
Yeah.
That's what we are saying.
Yeah. So to I personally don't like to speak matter-of-factly in these things. Maybe, depending how you classify it, sure. But what we can all appreciate is Srila Prabhupada was an incredibly empowered being. Um, and yeah, I mean, it depends how you classify it. But I know personally, he very adamantly showed by example, as an acharya does, that he is the servant. Always took a humble mood. So even and these incarnations, like even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is our whole sampradaya believes to not only be an Avesha incarnation, but to be the source of incarnations, like an incredibly empowered, non-different than Krishna himself. Even he would say, take that humble mood of, I'm a devotee. I'm not that person that you're thinking I am. I'm the devotee. So like this, that's one thing. But now to Balaram. All of these actually incarnations that we're talking about, for all intents and purposes, are really expansions from Balaram. Balaram, there's really only, there's the one absolute truth, and the one absolute truth comes in two, and that's Radha Krishna. And then as that absolute truth expands further, that's Balaram. Balaram is the next expansion, and he comes from Krishna. And then Balaram, then he sets up the whole realm of service for the other two. That's his whole main. That's his whole main point of existence, is setting up the service for the divine love to take place. And then he expands into many other living entities and incarnations and empowered incarnations, and then all the way down to us. So for ultimately to fulfill service. So this is actually, if there's any theme for today, it should be service. How are we being in service? And how are we approaching those who are more advanced in the service that we'd like to do? Because that's what Balaram expands into, Guru Tattva, the Guru. It's very important that we find a Guru. We talked about yesterday, the prime important Guru is the Shiksha Guru. The Guru that we can take suitable instruction from. And we should always be searching for Shiksha Guru as much as we can. Even, say your Diksha Guru leaves the planet, or he's away, but there's someone right down the street who's giving wonderful instructions for you to go deeper in Krishna consciousness, you should run right to that person right down the street. And like that, you should always be looking for Shiksha instruction, or that Guru, to help you more deeply. And what a good Shiksha Guru will and a good Diksha Guru they will complement each other. They'll be saying non-different things, and they will be complementing each other. So, like for instance, when Srila Prabhupada was passing away from this world, he actually gave two personalities that he told his disciples that they could take Shiksha instructions from. And actually one of them was one of his own personal Shiksha Gurus that he had in his life. One of them was Srila Sridhar Swami. And the other one was actually his junior, but he actually personally asked him to help his disciples. But so this is how Shiksha and Diksha Gurus work. They're not ever in competition with each other. They're always complementing each other, because everyone has the same goal. Guru is leading you to the path to service to Krishna. And that's what Balaram is all about. Leading you in facilitating all of the ways that we can serve Krishna. So this is ultimately our path, and we should find that teacher. We should find that teacher, and we should find many teachers. It's not that we just only there may be one who's of the topmost importance to us, and that one is even subject to change. Like for instance, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had taken Diksha in his younger years, for whatever reason. But the Diksha relationship, as he wanted to progress, it wasn't complete. And so he sought blessings, to take further shiksha. And I'm not actually so familiar with all of. I think there was some disagreement, but ultimately, who does Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Who do we have on our parampara lineage here? It's Jagannath Das Babaji, who was not his Diksha Guru, but he was his Shiksha Guru, and ultimately was an incredibly empowered soul. So like that, I mean, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, always considered his father his Shiksha Guru, and always glorified his father as one of the gurus in his life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But he took Diksha from Gorakishora Das Babaji, and he also extensively glorified him as well. So this is... We should understand a little bit of the semantics of Guru Tattva and how to approach a Guru. And I've seen personally, and I've personally held beliefs that were, not fully illumined in Guru Tattva, but two, actually was damaging to myself, actually being able to find wonderful Guru figures in my life who were... who I was almost rejection. Well, they're not my Diksha Guru. I can only follow my Diksha Guru's instructions. But actually, it was inappropriate. And actually, there are plenty of very wonderful, empowered Vaishnavas who can act as Shiksha Gurus and can help us. So that was a huge revelation to me. But Balaram is the original Guru, because this is how service is oriented. This is how we can learn service. We can't just be... just figure everything out on our own. We can figure some things out, but even if, say, I happen to be like that. I'm a very independent person. I'm maybe to a fault. Likely it is to a fault. But even so, say I want to study something and I want to learn a skill. Some guru guru means teacher. Some teacher has to have written a manual somewhere for me to dive in and ultimately learn these teachings. So we always have to be approaching a guru, even in spiritual life. A lot of times we don't have our even a Shiksha Guru near us, but we have their books, and we can dive into their teachings, and we can get instruction how to move forward. So today is a huge day to be very empowered in your prayers and approach to Guru. So and you can pray to Balaram that he empowers someone in your life to come and give you that grace, give you that good fortune. So that's we should always pray for that. We should always pray for that, but especially on today. Maybe we'll just end with one pastime of Balaram. This is I talked about a lot with you guys. We talked about, a lot of you come on Fridays. We talked about the Dhanuka pastime with the donkey demon, who Balaram ended up being the one who killed him and threw him in the tree. Remember that? And we talked about Pralambasura, who was disguising himself, and Balaram was on his shoulders and then tried to take him away, and so on. And we talked yesterday about the Dvavida gorilla, who was an associate of Lord Ram, but due to bad association, he eventually became very wicked. And so one more nice pastime of actually Balaram is he killed the speaker of the Bhagavatam right now, his father. Did you know this? So there was a wonderful sage named Ramaharshan Sutta. And at one point, actually, when the Pandavas and the Kauravas were fighting for the war of the Bhagavad Gita, it so much disturbed Balaram because he had so much affection for the Pandavas with Krishna. But on the other side, Duryodhana was one of his students. And it pained him so much to see that his loved ones and affectionate ones were fighting, that he couldn't take a side, and he decided that he is going to go do penance, and he's going to travel the world and go to holy places. So Balaram led by example in one sense. if say something like that were to happen, you have conflicted sides. You can't participate. Even Krishna, who was asked to be on both sides, he gave a consolation. He said, I can't fight. I have too much affection for both sides. I can't fight. But I will let you guys choose which way you want me to help. I'll help one side with an army, and I'll help one side as with myself as an advisor. And so the Pandavas were very smart, and Arjuna wanted Krishna on one side, and Duryodhana was not very smart, and he wanted the army. He's like, well, if you're not fighting, you're useless to me. So and like that, and that actually set the scene for why Krishna was the deciding factor in the war, and he will be the deciding factor in your life. But Balaram took an opposite, also valid approach, where he said, I can't participate in this. I can't take a side, and I'm going to go and remove myself from this, and I'm going to do penance, and I'm going to go to the holy places. So he went all across the world, visiting the different holy places, actually performing pastimes where each holy place he went. Remember, all these holy places, most of them are expansions of himself anyway. So, and he's going and serving the devotees there and performing many wonderful pastimes. And then he gets to the forest of Naimisharanya, where these sages are doing these sacrifices. Remember, we're hearing, the speaker we're hearing from right now is Sutta Goswami in that same forest. So when he went there, the prime sage was Romaharshan Sutta. And Romaharshan had done many wonderful things, and he actually he seemingly understood all of the Shastras. But when Balaram, and he was he was like the chief sage, So, but there's a lesson here. So when Balaram visited, and Romaharshan Sutta saw him, everyone else, when they saw Balaram, he's so beautiful that if you just see Balaram, you just have to stand up and be like, oh my God, like incredible. How beautiful is this personality? So everyone stood up to greet Balaram except Romaharshan Sutta, because Romaharshan Sutta was the one that he was like the leader of the sages, and he felt Balaram to be his junior. But he didn't actually understand Balaram's position. So Balaram actually took that as a great offense. And now many people could even try and criticize Balaram for this pastime. But if we actually understand the higher truth and what's happening beyond just the span of one life, actually Balaram gave Romaharshan Sutta his extensive mercy. But he took some grass and he just threw some grass at Romaharshan, and that grass sliced his head off. And it was, shocking to everyone. All the sages. But all the sages were quite disturbed by Balaram doing this. Because on one level, they all knew he was the personality of Godhead. But on another level, they said, you committed violence to a Brahmana. So I should research into this more. But the consolation they came up with, and this was Balaram's plan the whole time, is that Balaram would do severe amounts of penance. And to show by example where if you do end up offending, even if it was rightfully so, and it was, because Romaharshan actually, even though he was quite an exalted being, due to not properly understanding his position and not showing respect, getting actually puffed up from the position of power. And I can see how this can happen, because sometimes if you get used to being the speaker, and then all of a sudden somebody most qualified comes in, the tendency is you might disregard this person. If you get used to being in an exalted position, and some other great personality comes, if you're so caught up in your own pride,
Your authority becomes your arrogance.
Exactly. You become arrogant, and you could actually make an offense to a great devotee. I've actually seen this happen a few times in my life already. So I strive to be very careful, especially when we invite devotees here. because you never know how their position, unless you're completely versed in how to recognize a great personality. You should be very careful with how you treat with others and their position. You should always respect all living entities accordingly. So Rama Harshan, that was his one downfall. He couldn't recognize the ultimate guru, which was Balaram. And so Balaram performed this pastime of beheading him. But the sages realized that you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're non-different than Krishna. But at the same, so whatever you do must be what we should do. But they wanted to actually save Ramaharshan Sutta. But also, if I remember correctly, I think it was to fulfill a curse that happened to Ramaharshan Sutta as well. We could all research this pastime. Feel free to go research this pastime to more deeply understand it. But the essence of the pastime, or what we can take from it, is not to be arrogant in our learnings. And there will come a time where you become an instructor for someone else, but you should never hold an arrogant position, lest the Lord have to come and humble you, and it might even take the form of slicing your head off, like Balaram did with Ramaharshan Sutta. Yeah, yeah, it would be like that, but best not to necessarily push it to that level. I mean, if that's the Lord's desire for you, that's a glorious thing. To be killed by the Lord is, there's no one better. If you're going to be killed, there's no one better to be killed by. Sure. But so anyway, that's one pastime of Balaram. There's so many wonderful pastimes. Balaram, what's not well known is Balaram. It is well known in the Bhagavatam, but Balaram also had his own camp of gopis. There were many gopis who were great devotees of Krishna. But there was also a large group of gopis who were also devotees of Balaram. And they had their own unique, wonderful pastimes. One more pastime, this one is very nice, is, I believe there was Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha, right? Yeah. And Aniruddha, he got very attracted to Duryodhana's, I think, daughter. And so Aniruddha and Duryodhana's, I think Aniruddha took Duryodhana, which is like a Kshatriya thing to do.
Krishna's son, he was Krishna's son, not grandson.
Krishna's son's son, he was Pradyumna's son. Yes, so his grandson. Okay. Yeah, so Krishna's grandson Aniruddha took, I forget her name, but he took Duryodhana's daughter. Remember, Duryodhana was like the big personality in the Bhagavad Gita. Research this. So he took Duryodhana's daughter, and for a Kshatriya, like Krishna did this in a couple instances. This is like a Kshatriya can do this. In one sense, I feel like I almost kind of did this with my wife. I kind of just like stole her from her, because at first her family definitely wasn't so enthusiastic about me being the person in my wife's life. But in a sense, I didn't like literally pick her up and steal her, like, which is about Aniruddha. But this is like a thing that they did. Now I think my in-laws like me. I'm pretty sure. Just in case anyone's listening, I'm almost positive. But so, at least they're really good at showing it, pretending, if not. But what happened was Aniruddha had stole Duryodhana's daughter. And so for a Kshatriya, this could be an honorary thing. Like Krishna did this with Rukmini, and a very powerful person, if they take a daughter. I mean, if anyone from the West is listening to this, you could just stealing women, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, hard to justify with today's modern PC culture. But, just a psychology about men and women is... And my wife even appreciated this about me, is that women tend to like when a man takes charge of a situation. And if you're a princess and this handsome prince comes and swoops you away, it was always usually the women usually wanted such a thing to happen. There are many instances where that wasn't wanted, but in this case, it was very wanted. Like Rukmini, when Krishna took her, she literally wrote a letter begging that Krishna come and steal her, because she didn't want to marry. There was another arranged marriage, and so on. So anyway, Aniruddha had did this with Duryodhana's daughter, who they must have had some attraction to each other. Go ahead.
It was Samba, Samba and Lakshmana. Samba was Krishna's son, and Lakshmana was
Oh yes,
Duryodhana's
that's
daughter. Yeah.
yes.
Because I was thinking, because I had heard this past time, and I had heard this specific line that Balaram was uncle, and like an uncle, he went and
Ah, yes, yes.
Samba.
It was Samba. Okay,
Samba.
so Samba was Krishna's son.
Yeah. Krishna
Okay.
From Jambavati.
Oh, from Jambavati. Okay, very good. I'm glad you. So it wasn't Aniruddha, but Aniruddha, he was with. Oh, okay. He did it with. He also had a similar pastime with, I think, was it Kartaviri Arjuna's daughter? Now that I'm thinking. Anyway, there's so many. I really apologize. Thank you, Rishi, for researching. It was Samba, Krishna's son, who had stolen Duryodhana's daughter. And so they were very, the Kurus are like the most powerful army on the planet. And they're just shocked that this dynasty of Krishna would just come and steal their daughter. So they were all ready to go to war, and these insolent Yadus, we have to, who do they think they are? We let them have their kingdom over there, and they only are fine. Thank you, Rishi. They are only fine due to our mercy. So what ends up happening is that the Kurus set off to punish Samba. So, the Kurus have all the chief top warriors. They have Bhishma, they have Drona, they have, I think even the Pandavas were there at that time.
I think Karna was fighting with them.
Yeah,
As well.
Karna as well. And so they had all these amazing, top level warriors. So, to send them all against one person would be it wouldn't be proper fighting. But actually, that's what needed to happen. They tried to recapture Duryodhana's daughter from Samba, but Samba actually put up such an incredible fight that actually all of them were glorifying Samba. They were because Kshatriya, that's the Kshatriya nature. When they're when a great warrior is fighting and someone does something amazing in battle, they pay respect to each other like that. Be wow, that's pretty incredible that you did that.
Sorry, yes.
No problem. You heading out?
Yeah.
No problem. That means the attic will have to be cleaned today. Maybe one of you guys could help him with the.
That's okay. We're good.
Okay. So yeah, when Samba did that, but eventually with all those warriors fighting him, he eventually succumbed and he was captured. Even he did many amazing feats on the battlefield, he was eventually captured. So what ended up happening was that Krishna was very angry that they captured Samba, and they all fought off against, and the Yadus were all ready to go to war with the Kurus, because how could they do that? It's unjust to send all of the fighters against one young boy, like this. So they were really quite upset. So they're ready to be a war, and then Balaram said, no. They're our relatives. We have good relations with them. Also, Duryodhana is one of my students. Let me go and appease them. So Balaram went as a messenger. He went as he came in peace. But what ended up happening is, when he got there, I forget who actually was the main offender, but the
I think it was Bhishma.
was it Bhishma?
I think,
Yeah, the main offender. But basically the leaders of the Kurus were chastising Balaram and not showing him proper respect.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden Balaram says, "I come here in peace." And little did they know, he just saved them from all being destroyed by the Yadus, by Krishna's army. So then Balaram starts laughing maniacally. And he's just like, these fools, they don't know anything. So he starts laughing maniacally. He says a whole big discourse. But what he ends up doing is that he's like, I will drag this whole city into the Ganga. So he takes his plow and he, like, with incredible force, like, digs it into, like, the like platform of land that Delhi or Hastinapur at the time was sitting on, and he starts dragging the whole city into the Ganga. So the whole, like, place is, like, earthquaking and everyone's freaking out. And so all of a sudden, Bhishma and Drona, all of the warriors are, like, begging at his feet. We misunderstood your position. Please, we're so sorry with everything. And basically, actually there's apparently a place you can go in, I think it must be Old Delhi.
It moved kind of.
Yeah. So there must be a place where it began to move, and they said this is the pastime place, and it's pulled out into the Ganges some way before Balaram stopped, because they all ultimately agreed. And then after that, there was obviously good relations between Samba and the young girl that he.
Boils down to power.
What's that?
Everyone boils down to power.
Yeah.
Relationships are formed with power.
Yes,
Always.
yes, yes.
So that's true.
But there is a sweetness too. But yes,
Yeah.
but
Because it makes you humble, and from humbleness comes sweetness. Anyway, so
yes, but yes, that's usually the case. Powerful people, the only thing they end up respecting is power. Actually, that's why discipline is very important in the world. That there is some disciplinary power. Why? Because other powerful people who are committing crimes, if they don't feel the ultimate power of the disciplinary, then that's it. So actually, like, for instance, animals, I learned this the hard way. We have this tendency to be, we want to be very nonviolent. We never want to hurt another living entity. This is actually inappropriate in many cases. Where I learned this because I trained a bull at one point, and
Okay.
I trained a bull.
bull.
A bull, like, and he was castrated, meaning he's an ox now,
Yeah.
but he's still a very powerful being. His name was Bala, actually. That was his name. That was a fun pastime I had for 1 year with my wife. And actually, Keshava Gopal lives with this cow now, this ox down in where Keshava Gopal lives. Those cows now live there. The person I was living with, he moved there, and now they're all in the same place together. So I want to go visit them. One of the chief reasons I want to go visit. It would be nice to see Keshava Gopal and the other devotees there, but I miss those cows so much. But I trained this bull. And actually, one of the ways to train them, there's two ways to train a bull. The most cruel way is you stick a ring through its nose and you pull on its nose. But a lot of bull trainers in Krishna conscious, they don't like this because even though in the scriptures, even Krishna and the cowherd boys did this, it can be very cruel and hurt them. But there's another way to train a bull with a lead rope and a stick, and you have to guide the bull with the stick. And I learned this. If I wasn't pretty up on that bull's case with this stick, just hit that side good. If I wasn't guiding him properly with the stick, he'll totally take advantage of me. And it happened multiple times where actually the owner of the bull, he was a big softie with the bull. He would like to give it kisses. He loved him so much. And multiple times we found him on the ground, like completely wrecked by the bull, because the bull just he took advantage of that. And there were many times where that bull got away from me, and the only way to bring that bull to his senses was you had to give it discipline. And he had to feel the power of me with the stick. I had to bop him on the nose so many times, to control him. But mostly it was on the butt. But as long as he felt my discipline and power from the butt, he would do exactly what I wanted him to do. But there were a few times, he's a huge animal. One time he stepped on my foot. I thought I broke my foot. He's a massive animal. Must have been about 800 to 1,000 pounds, this Bala. He is very powerful. Bala means powerful. Bala, that's what Balaram means, right? Ram means most pleasing, and Bala, but most powerful. Most
Pleasingly powerful.
pleasingly powerful, or powerfully pleasing, or powerful and pleasing. So anyway, Bala was very powerful, and but because he felt he was much more powerful than me, he could have hurt me very badly if he wanted. But because of me and my stick, and I was able to hit him. And if he's very bad, you have to hit him on the nose. They don't like that at all. So if you hit them on the nose, they feel your power, and then they'll listen. Okay. So like you said, this is the point of discipline. And actually, even with the Ramaharshan Sutta, Ramaharshan was like the most powerful sage, but because he didn't respect someone of a greater power, he had to actually see and learn from that. And his soul, wherever he went next, I think there might be even some explanation of where his soul went next. It can only be to a good place when the Lord himself has to remove you from your body. But anyway, so these are some nice pastimes from Balaram. We talked about a couple yesterday, and we talked about a couple today. Rishi, thank you for getting some of the finer details correct for me. It wasn't Aniruddha. I'm very happy you told me that, and it's Shamba. Or Samba or Shamba?
Samba.
Samba. So, yes, as you can see, I'm not that experienced doing this. But yeah, that is our Balaram Purnima Bhagavatam class today. Thank you guys for joining. Tej, super thankful that you got here. This is your first morning program with us, right? I've been waiting for this for so long, so I'm glad it's here. I hope it's I hope it's not a rare event, and it can, we love having you here. But we're gonna end now.